Welcome to Offstage with Jordan Baylor, where you'll discover the stories behind the movers and shakers in the entertainment and business world. Now here's your host, Jordan Baylor.
Hey, it's good to be back with another episode of Offstage with Jordan Baylor. As some of you might know, others don't, I am based in the amazing, amazing city of Houston, Texas. H-Town, what it do, baby? And sometimes on the weekends, solicitors like to come. They like to knock. They hold vacuums. They try and hold your time. They try and sell you things. They try and push ideas on you. It's weird, so I don't answer the door. You know, because they're always trying to get you to convert to the cable company or the religion, or get you to try and join a cult. I just don't fool with it. I just stay away from the door. I act like I don't have a front door. Well, my wife answered the door this weekend, or she answered the door a couple weekends ago, and I just knew that she had stepped on a landmine, because she called me. She was like, "I need help." As I heard it in her voice, "I need help." So here I am. I'm stomping towards the front door. I have the biggest broom, getting ready to blow whoever the hell this is away. I get to the front door, and all I see, frankly, is just a sincere looking dude. And he didn't want anything from me but to tell me he was knocking doors for a guy running for Congress. And I was like, "Well, who are you knocking doors for?" And he was like, "Me. I'm the candidate." And I was like, "What?" He was like, "I'm Marc Flores, a man who's organized and ran Beto O Rourke's campaign and was running for Congress for District 18. So honestly, I talked to him. I asked him a couple questions about Beto O Rourke. What is he like? This, that, and the third. And we chatted a bit. And honestly, I like the dude. He's a cool dude. But most importantly than that, besides being a politician, he's extremely driven, and he hustles, and he has that undefinable grit that you see in people. So I had to have him on the show. So in our episode, we talked about it going above and pouring in more than what is expected of you. And we talked about work ethic and politics. And in our discussion, we talked about what I feel is the cannibalistic nature of the Democratic Party. And even if you don't subscribe to Marc's politics, I still think there's a lot of gold for you to pull from his ideology and the thoughts behind his decisions. And if you like the guy or you don't like the guy, just know that early voting in Texas is commencing right now, and it ends February 28th. The primary takes place on March 3rd. Personally, I don't care how you vote. Just make sure you get out there and get your voice heard, because I don't want to hear you bitching if you're not out there voting for someone who has your best interests at heart. And I know that the guy, Marc Flores, he's hoping to be the change that we all desire. So I now bring to you Marc Flores in our discussion. Welcome to another episode of Offstage with Jordan Baylor. This is Jordan Baylor here, and I've got the fantabulous Marc Flores. He's a man running for Congressional District 18, based out of Houston, Texas. And how are you doing today, Marc?
Good. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here, and I'm excited about the podcast.
We're so pleased to have you. So I like to start off every interview and just ask, who is Marc Flores?
Yeah, phenomenal question. Mm-hmm. I think Marc is a passionate, hardworking, dedicated person that is interested in helping others. That's kind of who I've always been in my life, in looking back at it as a young person, and the feedback that I get from those that are closest to me, friends and family that have been with me that know me the longest. That's probably how I would sum myself up without getting into a whole biography.
Okay. I know politics is transactional. I vote for you because, I want this thing, or you agree with my politics, or you feel the way I feel. If somebody votes for you, what are they going to get?
Yeah, I don't know that most people believe, or I don't believe most people want government to be transactional. I do believe that most people want government and those working in government and those whom we elect to be elected officials, to be representatives, and to do the work of our population or our city or county or federal government in a way that we'd want everything else in our lives. So our friends, our family, our coworkers, we are attracted to those by folks who are good people doing good work. And I think that's no different than what a majority of the people want out of their elected officials.
You don't think people vote transactionally?
Well, I don't think that's what they want. Most people.
That's what it seems like it's turned into, though.
I think looking back at our government and our country and how it was created, you think about the folks in the late 18th century who made a very difficult decision to revolt and against their rulers. With the idea of building a better country that was more representative of their local government. And I can only imagine that generations removed from that era, there was a majority of the country that understood that and was still sensitive to that sacrifice. They succeeded in creating one of the greatest countries. And we are reaping those benefits, and we live busy lives. We are out working and taking care of our family and going to school, taking our kids to soccer practice, etc. And we can forget about that sacrifice that so many have done for our country before us. But I don't think people want it to be transactional. I think people want a better life. They want things improved in their community. And the reason I know that is because I've knocked on over 15,000 doors. We've talked to thousands of people in the 18th Congressional District. And this is what we hear. And this is also the time that I spent volunteering on Beto O Rourke's Senate campaign a couple of years ago, where I also knocked thousands of doors and talked to hundreds or thousands of people. And that's what people want. I mean, they don't really want much. The country is in a place where we're afforded a lot of great things in our lives, and people just want they don't want too much. They're looking for a better way of life locally, healthcare, flooding here in Houston, addressing poverty. And so I think people want to elect people that they can trust, that are good people, that are well-intentioned, and that are doing the right thing. Transactional. No, I don't know that the majority of people that go out and vote are looking for something in return. Specifically. Yeah, they're not looking for a handout. They're not looking, by and large, they're not looking for something in their life or some action in their life. I mean, they're wanting better representation. They want people representing the government to improve their way of life. And I guess that's a way of considering it transactional. I just don't see it that finite.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I agree with you. All right. So what happened to you that triggered you to go into politics? Like, why the Democratic Party, and why does it align with your values personally?
Yeah. So born and raised in Laredo in South Texas on the border with Mexico. Mom was a teacher. My dad was a small business owner. I graduated from Texas A&M University about 2 decades ago with a degree in construction science in the College of Architecture. And for about 20 years, I was building hospitals and universities for folks like MD Anderson and Memorial Hermann here in Houston. And about 5 years ago, changed jobs. I was working 80 hours a week on a construction site managing $300 million high rises here in Houston. And when I changed jobs, I got more time on my hands. I started to volunteer in the community as I was able to invest more of my time in the community. So I volunteer with groups like U.S. Vets that provides housing for homeless veterans. And then a couple of years later, bumped into Beto O Rourke, who's running for Senate here in Texas. And I saw his approach to his campaign and dealing with people in the community, and whether it was not taking any PAC money when he didn't have to make that hard decision, or self-imposing term limits, where, again, a lot of people talk about doing but don't do. And he self-imposed. I said, look, this is the kind of person that we want that most people, the kind of person, not aside from politics and agendas. And I said, this is the kind of person most people want to see representing them. And I'm going to do everything I can to help the campaign, which I did for 15 months, running a grassroots headquarters for his office out of my house as a volunteer for about 15 months. And, And so after that, or during that episode or that period, many folks would come up to me and say, "Hey, are you running for office? Or maybe one day you will." And at the end of the election, I thought about it. And early on, I was like, you know what, maybe I'll do that, but it'll be decades from now. Mm-hmm. And I said, no, now's the time. I want to do it now. I see my skills and what I've done in my life and how I can better represent the people in my community. And so we did a lot of research, and we chose to run for Congress here in the 18th Congressional District.
Why Congress?
You know, I felt like it was best suited for my skill set. Congress, what I wanted to do was represent my community and get work done. Mm-hmm. And people say, well, why the heck would you run for Congress? Nothing gets done there. And I said, well, that's exactly where we probably need those that are most hungry to get things done, look at things differently. So it was the hardest challenge. We're challenging a 25-year incumbent that's been representing our district for about 25 years. And this is rarely successful. And so I quit my job. I've been doing this full time for about 9 months. And so what we heard and saw early on were folks that saying, Mark, you're crazy. It can't be done. We don't want to see you hurt. And so I had asked them, I said, well, what is it that you think is our incumbent is doing so well, or that you know her for? And people really struggled in answering that question. So I said, I think we could do this, and I know we can. And that's what we've been doing the last 9 months. We got 3 more weeks. We're in a great position. We met as I was knocking on your door just recently, and that's what we're doing. You know, we're connecting with people because this is not something that people do. The number one, or some of the number one responses we get from folks are, you know, I've never had somebody knock on my door, or a candidate knock on my door, or people saying it's time for change, or yeah, I'll vote for you. So that's the feedback we're getting, and I'm excited.
I love it. So your background includes like organizing and running Beto O Rourke's campaign. How did you get that gig?
You know, I just tracked them down. I went to one of his speeches several years ago. Mm-hmm. And
it was like 2015?
No, this was in 17. And so I said, I want to get involved. And they said, you go talk to this guy in Houston. Took a while to track him down, but I did, and said I want to help. And they got me on their distribution list, and everything they asked folks to do, I would do. And initially, it was data entry, just adding email phone numbers into their data so that they can send out emails. Next, it was sending out text messages to people from my home. Next was, you know, hosting strangers in my home that they would send to me for a live stream where Beto would come on. It would be a barbecue for the campaign. Then it was block walking and phone banking, and then having a volunteer staff of 15 people operating out of my house from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Every day. And it just snowballed. And we did great. We got a lot of great feedback. The campaign noticed what we were doing. And we did a lot of work. In fact, some of the things they would share with me was, Mark, you're doing more work than some of the folks that we paid to do this work. So I enjoyed it, and I was proud to do it for the campaign. The campaign came up a little short, but got closer than anyone had in over 25 years.
That's a lot of dedication you gave, like dedication and loyalty, the 2 words that pop into my head when I hear about all the work you've done for the campaign. Was your dedication and your loyalty more towards Beto because you believed in him, or was it more towards the change you were pushing towards? Like, what drove you?
I think it's probably both. I mean, or maybe they're one and the same. He was the agent of that idea. And so he the campaign was the work. And this is how we make change in America, frankly, right? I mean, we can continue to not pay attention, which is easy to do in good times because we're concentrating on our personal lives. And we can turn a blind eye in tough times because we don't want to hear all that garbage on CNN from our typical politicians. Yeah. So it's very easy for us to not stay involved and get involved. But when you see somebody in a campaign like this, you want to help them out as best as possible because those kinds of approaches in politics don't come around very often. and it's I felt it. I felt that I needed to help in some way to reward or benefit that work, so that we can all have access to a new day, a new age, a new era, a new approach.
Wow. I like that. So you kind of felt like that was what you had to throw into the pot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a story of the kettle pot. Like the whole village comes together and it starts with the chicken bone and I got carrots, I got potatoes. Like that was like your potatoes.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I like that, man. I like that. So what made you want to step into organizing space and think like you already know how to run an effective campaign? I mean, the Beto O Rourke campaign was like really effective, and you saw it from the inside, like all the stuff it went to. Why not just? I guess my question is, why not just find another candidate and then you push them the way you pushed Beto?
Yeah, so I was given myself a decision, and the decision was one of three things: either continue my career and contribute financially to campaigns. And get more involved in the community, or I could do what you're talking about, is leave my career and get into campaigns.
Yeah. And
the third was to run for myself, and I chose the hardest option, the most consequential, and that was to run for myself to represent our district, because I felt like two things. One, that it was time for us to take this congressional seat to the next level. This is a historic seat represented by the likes of Barbara Jordan. When this seat was originally created 50 years ago, she was a fighter for education. She was the first African-American woman to represent the South in Congress. She was the first African-American or woman to be in the state Senate. Prior to that, Mickey Leland, she was there for 6 years. Mickey Leland was there for 10 years. And a fighter for the poor, and literally gave his life in a plane crash on his way to address the Ethiopian crisis in Africa. And then you had Craig Johnson and now Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. And so I felt like this seat was ready to take to a next level and approach it a little bit differently. And so our approach is to address the most important issues here in our district. There's a handful of them, and really concentrate on them. I feel like a lot of folks go to Washington can get caught up in everything that's Washington, trying to hit the headlines and spread themselves too thin and not really address the most important issues here. And so that's our approach. It's a little different. We also want to address the more local issues as well and be an advocate, a voice for the people here locally. Not just send folks down to City Hall or the City Council for a local issue, but walk them through and get them more involved and engaged and excited about government.
So to pull something off like that, I mean, you would need like a lot of help to get that many people active. I mean, are you doing like outreach for the youth, or is it people coming and helping you?
Yeah, so it's been tough. It is tough in general, right? Unless you're a Beto O Rourke, it's hard to grab spotlight that he had in his Senate run. So we've been doing it with friends, family, coworkers who have donated to our campaign, friends, family, coworkers who know me, believe in me, because not only they've known me or friends or family, but they see my work ethic, my approach, my passion for whatever I've done in my life, and they're willing to invest their time and money in me. Which is humbling. And so it's motivating as well to make sure that we're doing everything that we know we need to be doing, because we have so many people that are helping us out. And so, we've gone out to every neighborhood. We've been to every corner of the district. We're talking to folks, we're knocking on doors and making phone calls and sending text messages. We're putting up our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter profiles up, and a website. And we've cobbled together an amazing staff, a field director that's a student at Sam Houston. A communications director that's a student over at Sam Houston State, a data guy in Boston, field director is our only hire. We've got a volunteer manager we're now friends from the Beto campaign. A couple other folks that come into the office a couple times a week to do data entry or update our calendar or deposit our checks to the bank. And then we've got a half a dozen or dozen so volunteers that we've met block walking. So these aren't folks that that knew me before the last couple of months, but they believe in me. They see the future of our district, and they want to be part of it.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're very lucky.
What are the key metrics for measuring whether your campaign is moving towards the right direction? I mean,
yeah,
it kind of seems like, campaign trail is very busy. You can get lost in the sauce, and you can get just, the day-to-days can slip through your fingers, and you look up at election time. So how do you measure that day-to-day we're knocking down all the stuff we need to get done?
Yeah, so it's really two generally measures. One is money, because money gets you to be able to do things. You can send out mailers, you can hire staff, you can buy ads on social media. And so we've raised more money as a challenger in this race in the last 25 years than anybody else has challenged in this race in the last 25 years. Wow. So we're good there. Not great. We could use a little bit more money, but we got what we need to run a solid campaign. And then the other is voter contact. So we contact voters based on a handful of methods. So that's either knocking on doors, making phone calls, text messaging, social media advertisements. And so when you add that up and you know how many people are going to come out to vote and you're targeting the right people, the goal is to quote unquote touch or allow the voter to see you at least a couple of times, if not a handful of times. And so those touches or contacts through those methods many times to this relatively small voter pool is how we can define how well we're doing.
Day to day, how do you structure your days to get the most accomplished?
It's hard. We get to work at 7, ends around 11 in the evening.
Is that Monday through Sunday?
That's Monday through Sunday, yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And so the early mornings, the last several months has been campaign management work. So I'm the campaign manager. So that's organizing our staff and making sure we've got the right vendors on board and monitoring other folks that are doing work for us. The afternoons, we've been a lot of knocking on doors, talking to people in the community. In the evenings early on, we were going to a lot of civic club meetings and super neighborhood meetings involved in the community. So helping out, volunteering at a community garden that was being built through the new Progressive Civic Club in Settegas, partnered with Habitat for Humanity, or working with kids out in Pleasantville as a volunteer at their Friends of the Park at Judson Robinson Park. But here recently, it's really just been concentrating on voter contact. So that's phone calling, knocking on doors, and making sure that our social media advertising is going well.
Okay. So you're trying to show up in then basically every area that votes in Houston.
Yes.
Yeah. So sometimes you come across a candidate and it feels like you cannot get away from their ad, and they're everywhere. They just flood the market, like Michael Bloomberg. You cannot get away from that guy's ads. Like they're all over YouTube. How does a candidate pull off that feeling of omnipresence where they're like everywhere at once? And how does that message not get like, oh, not this guy again? Like, you know what I mean? How do you pull that off?
Yeah, the money. Yeah. If you have the money, you can do it. That's what he has. That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
Even though some people may be turned off by it, he's achieving what he's trying to do, and that is for people to know who he is.
That's true.
So he's being successful at that, but he is special in that he has millions, hundreds of millions of dollars.
Hundreds of billions.
Yes.
Billionaire.
And so for me, we're trying to be as strategic as possible. We're obviously not running a national race. It's still a district, but it still has 800,000 people, 400,000 registered voters. Our target group was closer to about 100,000, but about 60,000 will come out and vote. And so we've got the voter data. We're trying to make sure we're using our dollars as best as possible when it comes to the mailer, to our social media advertising, and where we invest on other voter contact programs.
So you guys are like running Facebook ads and Instagram ads and all that, and all that data is like able to help you like get your campaign right in front of them specifically, right?
Yes. Yeah. The Facebook ads and Instagram ad, they have got a little bit of protections there in that we don't know exactly who's seeing our ads, but we are able to basically or they're able to see the people in our district. So we know they're going to people within our district or people that would probably vote for us. Mm-hmm. We just don't know exactly who. Oh, okay. The mailers, we know who will get them. Mm-hmm. And on Instagram, same thing. Instagram's owned by Facebook, so it's basically the same approach with Facebook. Mm-hmm. And then when we knock on doors, obviously we know who we're talking to there. Same thing on the phone banks and the text messaging. So you look at all those methods that we contact voters, mm-hmm. and you're not going to hit, or you're a very small percentage, you're going to hit people on all 6 or 7 of those methods. Mm-hmm. But if we can hit a lot of people on 2 or 3 of those methods a handful of times, then, our job is to share with folks who we are and why we're running. That's our job. Our second job is to get folks out to vote. And if we do that well, meaning getting in front of people and letting them know who we are, mm-hmm. and then getting them out to vote, we know we'll be successful.
Wow. And you really broke that down. I really appreciate that, because, you clarified the many different ways that you can hit it and then all the different angles. That's so fascinating. That is truly fascinating. I gotta ask, man, you're a really cool guy. Like, why politics? Like, you're like a really cool dude. I'm just like, why? I don't know, man. With politics, I think everybody kind of feels, I'm not gonna say everybody feels the same, but like, I feel like with politics, people tell you what they want, what you want, what they want you to hear, and then they just do the thing that basically the person that actually gave them a lot of money, they just do what they want them to do.
Yeah, 2 points there. I think one is that I'm running because for a long time I saw a lot of folks in elected office that I wasn't proud of, that I felt like had a responsibility and weren't doing that or achieving that responsibility in a way that we're expected to. We expect our elected officials to. And there should be some sense of public trust, mm-hmm. meaning, okay, you're our elected official. You should be representing us and doing good things. We can't keep track of you all the time, but there's some amount of trust that we're going to impose on you or expect from you. And I think oftentimes people don't have that trust. And so that's the reason I'm running, is to let folks know that I'm not a career politician, that mm-hmm. it's not about who gave me money, because the only people that have given me money are my friends, family, and coworkers, and they don't want anything out of me. And so we're hoping to provide that for them. Or we know we will provide that for them. We just gotta get in front of folks and let them know who we are and get them out to vote.
You have a good energy. I tell you that. You have a great energy.
Yeah,
I came to the front door, and usually when I get up and come to the front door, I'm like, who's coming to mess with me right now? And I was like, oh, this guy's really cool. And I got like a really calming aura off of you. And I think energy is very important.
Sure.
You have a very calming energy. You're a straight shooter.
Right.
And it's like clarity. It's not like, I'm going to trick this guy with my key points. And I didn't get that off you, man. And I've met a lot of politicians. I used to, when I was like 18, 19, I used to go on my college campus and get people to register to vote. I worked on the Obama campaign because that was like the first time I was going to get to vote. And I was like, oh, dude, a black guy? What? He actually has a shot? Are you kidding me? This is the greatest. And then, so I worked in his campaign, and then it just kind of got me into like working for other people. And man, sometimes the politicians look at young people as like free labor. Like they just drool, and they're just like, I don't want to pay any of these kids. Right. I want to run them in the ground, and I just want to work them 12 hours a day. And that's taxing, because kids need money. And then, we're in college, we're getting horrible student loan debts and all this and that. I don't even know what I'm talking about right now. But
to your point, I feel the one of the things I get from folks is they say, Mark, what I get from you is you seem like a genuine person.
You're genuine.
And so I've been getting that a lot here in the last 9 months. And I think, and maybe it's a little easier because people are expecting something very different from mm-hmm. people who are running for office. So the bar is kind of low. and that's sad, but it's not funny, because this is our government, this is our politics, right?
You gotta laugh to keep from crying,
but that's right. But to your other point, yes, I do agree. A lot of folks will come in and say, this is what I want to do, mm-hmm. and I'm going to do it, and they know what to say. I'm going to promise you the world, right?
Yeah.
And so what I share with folks is that I'll talk to them about why we're running.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll say, look, these things don't happen overnight. So I'm not here to promise you that I'm here to fix them all.
Mm-hmm.
I alone and will do it overnight. In fact, what I say is that I can only do it with other people. No one person can accomplish any of these things, whether it's at a campaign or an office or legislation.
Mm-hmm.
And so, our approach has been to empower leaders in the community. And there's so many, that's what I've seen so many people that are knowledgeable and experts in their fields, or they're passionate about certain things. They might be an expert in education, which is an important issue in our district, or they might be a great community leader, which is important to empower, to coalesce people. And so our approach will to empower those leaders that are already here and have the passion to do these things, provide them a seat at the table, because again, no one person can accomplish this thing. But I do know that together with these leaders and a team of good people with a good framework, call me crazy, call me idealist, but we can do it. I do believe so. And people can get behind that. They can get empowered by it.
I agree. I'm all for grassroots campaigns. I think those are the most organic, and they convert the best. And when they actually do succeed, it's beautiful. It's beautiful because it brings everybody together,
right? And
everybody becomes part of the process, which is very, very rare. So many people are left out of the conversation, like you said. And for you to see, because it seems like politicians don't see it, or they choose not to. They'd rather just see the people that have money for them. Because, like you said, it's expensive to run a campaign. It's very expensive.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I feel like, I do believe most those who are elected into office began that process and with good intentions. But you get there, and if you're there for a while, it then becomes a career, and it's maybe they didn't have a career before, and they feel like they might be in a position to just do and say whatever it takes to get reelected, because that's now their thing, and they can lose sight of the most important things and addressing those. And so, and that's people, and that's understanding the neighborhood and the district as it evolves and changes, which ours has. And understanding what people are thinking and saying. And that's why we've been out on the streets, knocking on doors, understanding different neighborhoods at a very local level.
Do you feel like there's enough representation of people of color in general in politics?
No, there isn't. The numbers will say that, show that, prove that. And I think it is important that we do have diversity in our representation that represents our country and our communities. And but there's got to be people that are willing to put themselves out there to run for office, and they have to work to connect with their community, and that's hard. And the other thing that's hard, I think, is that, and I don't know that there, I feel like we're very connected with people who we see similarities in. And so, and we're dealing with this right now where you look at the presidential election and you look at how what groups of people will be voting for different groups. So, people in campaigns. And I dealt with this with some of these consultants here locally. It's like, oh, you're Hispanic, you got to go get the Hispanic people to vote, or you're black and you've got how many blacks do vote in this district or are in this district, as if that's the only thing that people look at in voting. Now, I do believe the numbers, unfortunately,
it's very important,
show that, right?
And
so why is that? And so is it because we just see something similar in ourselves? And I think that happens in life, but
it goes back to like the lack of, like you said, representation. It's like, oh, he's black, let me vote for him. Like, oh, he's Hispanic, oh, let me vote for him. It looks like my uncle, let me vote for him. Like that kind of stuff. Like it feels good. Like even the guy could not have your best interest at heart. It could be the white woman that on paper has your best interest at heart.
Right.
But like he looks like my uncle. Like I know my uncle. My uncle would do me dirty.
Right.
You're like, you know.
Right.
But it's just kind of like a little bit of that, I think. Yeah. But I think people, I don't know. It's like maybe when we vote, we probably shouldn't like. I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't look at the name. We should look at. Maybe the voting style should be different. Maybe we should just look at the instead of the name, like, what do you want? This, or that. And then if we voted based on identity or politics, like what are they actually pushing for? Yeah. You know, we might be able to get different results at the voting booth. But I don't know, man.
Well, we make it hard. Because there's a lot of choices to make when you go vote. There's, you know, all the typical ones, and then you got all these judges. So you got 100 decisions to make, at least 2 per election, and you got 200 things to research. Right now, very few people are going to do that. Now, when people who are over 65 vote by mail, they get their ballot at their their kitchen counter, and sometimes they'll sit there and research each candidate. And so we make it hard because we got to go to a central location. And it's just a name there or a party next to their name, a D or an R. And in lieu of providing us more, and then, because it's a lot of work to go and research all these people. So, I think that's part of it too.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. Yeah. And then a lot of these ads, they don't make it clear on their stance. They just kind of, they don't, like you used to be able to look at a campaign or a commercial and be like, oh, he's using red colors, he's a Republican. Oh, he's using blue, he's a Democrat. Now it's like they're using red, white, and blue, and they're tricking you, and they're coming out of the back, of a kitchen. And like, I'm a hard worker. You're just like, what? How do you feel about it? Like they just don't tell you. They just kind of dance around it.
Well, and that's all part of it, right? That's like a symptom, because if people understand that, I just got to do this because people aren't going to research or look into it. So I just got to give them this 30-second snapshot and then give it to them enough times.
Yeah, give it to them enough times, and then they'll remember the face, they'll remember the name, and they'll vote for it.
Yeah.
It seems like the Democratic Party is fractured at the moment. You got so many screaming voices trying to take leadership of it. People push. You got like independents in the mix, and you got like people pushing for like Trump's impeachment, and then the impeachment didn't work, of course. And what are your thoughts on the status of like the Democratic Party?
Yeah, I mean, I think all those voices are good in general. It's good to have different ideas and approaches. It keeps the issues live and our brain power working hard to get the best package put together. In general, the foundation of all the ideas are good intentioned. At some point, you got to figure out, well, how do we achieve something? And you got to say, okay, well, this is our goal. This would be ideal, but we got to continue to make progress. And sometimes you can't get the whole thing right off the bat, and you get little chunks as you can, because that's part of our democracy, in this two-party system, is that there are different voices, both within the party and between parties, that you have to share, because we're all every representative in Congress is representing different parts of the country, and that's the whole part behind that part of democracy. And so I think all of that conversation and some cases discourse is positive, but we have to, so long as it gets to a point where we're actually accomplishing something and moving and addressing something. So
seems like nothing's getting accomplished. And
it
seems like all the voices are like cannibalizing each other, and they're like trying to compare struggles, like, black rights are bad, but trans rights are bad too. It's like, dude, we can both be bad at the same time. We don't have to fight each other for who's struggling more or who's, you got poor people. You got so much injustice going on. It's just, how does the Democratic Party find leadership within itself, and then how do they start, like you said, to systematically get little slices done?
I mean, I think it goes through our election process. I mean, we're seeing that play out for the folks that are running for president right now. You've got a couple of folks that are more progressive, a couple of folks that are more moderate, and the people decide.
Yeah.
The people ultimately decide.
Who are you pushing for?
Early on I was a Kamala Harris fan. She got out. Before that, I was obviously a Beto O Rourke fan. Right now, I think Pete Buttigieg is doing a really good job. I think he could, although he's young, he doesn't have all the experience that most folks we see running for president have, but I think he has a good head on his shoulders and can do well.
He's really smart on paper. He just seems like so robotic. He doesn't seem like he has a soul.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
I seems like he didn't have a soul. Like that's what I get off the guy. He's like, looks like he combs his hair. Like, 100 strokes, Peter. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, he doesn't seem like he's fun. He just doesn't seem like he ever. I mean, and I remember growing up, I used to always hear that when people would go like, "Oh, I could drink a beer with Bush." Like, and I never understood it. I was like, that's so dumb. Like, he's like, he can't get drunk. He's supposed to be the president. He's like, but I understand it. It's like a likability factor. Like.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we always want the perfect candidate. I don't know that we've had a perfect president. No. If that's his biggest fault, then I think we're doing okay.
I guess so. I guess so. Yeah. I'll take the robot. I don't mind.
Yeah. No, I know the likability is important because you got to work with Congress and a lot of people, but and a lot of groups and agencies, but if that's his biggest issue, then I think we're okay.
You got a likability.
What's that?
I said you have a lot of likability. Excuse me. I said
myself?
Yeah, yourself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're pretty cool guy.
Thank you.
All right. So how can the people find you and how can they support you?
Yeah. So check us out on our website. It's marcfloresforcongress.com. My name's Marc Flores, spelled MarcFlores. So Marc Flores for Congress. You can also check us out on Facebook and Instagram under Marc Flores for Congress, Twitter, Marc Flo Congress. And on our website, just click the donate button on the top right-hand corner. We'd love to get $5 from you so we can get out 10 more mailers. That's our last line item that we're trying to fund right now. We've got their entire campaign funded. So every dollar that comes in allows us to reach 2 more people in their mailbox. For folks that we weren't able to talk to, like we were fortunate enough to do with you the other day, but we may have we may have touched them some other way. The mailer gives them something in their mailbox one last time before they go and vote. It allows them to understand that this is a primary election, that a lot of folks don't go and vote in this primary election, that they'll be able to vote for president, that where their nearest early voting location is, the dates, times, and locations. So that's our biggest struggle right now, our issue that we're trying to fund. Folks can go to our website and just click the donate button to help us, or just send me an email or a text to 832-819-9905. And you can come out and volunteer with us. We had about 10 volunteers block walking with us yesterday. We'll have a couple today, and then we'll continue to grow over these last 2 weeks.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, Mark.
Thank you.
This has been a great interview. Thank you. And when is the election day?
March 3rd is election day, so you can vote any polling place in the county from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Early voting begins. I'm sorry, I'm sounding a little robotic right now.
No, go for it, man. Plug.
18th to the 28th is early voting, so also 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. There's about 50 locations in the county you can go and vote for, but you can also find those locations at harrisvotes.com.
All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for listening to Offstage with Jordan Baylor. Now go forth and create.